Phil Foden form has consigned Manchester City player to super sub role. He has already excelled in Manchester City, have seen Phil Foden get back to his best over the past 2 weeks, and it has settled a selection dilemma for Pep Guardiola. You can see why Rayan Cherki is so keen to get back into the swing of things at Manchester City after the early momentum he built up was stopped in its tracks with the thigh injury he sustained at the end of August. The 21-year-old is eyeing a potential return to action next week after making good progress in his recovery, even if he is more likely to be back involved against Everton after the international break. While Cherki has been on the sidelines, Phil Foden has returned to form in style and potentially settled the debate as to who City's best playmaker is this season. It's not impossible that we'll see the two left-footers playing together at some point in the campaign. But so far, the only game they have started together was the routine 2-0 win against Etihad AC in mid-June at the start of the Club World Cup. It could be that Foden takes hold of the central playmaking role in this side and Cherki plays off the right, but there is competition there, and it's hard to see the two dovetailing for Pep Guardiola in the biggest games. He will want captain Bernardo Silva in the side, and he has experience playing with Foden when either can play wide or centrally. Foden's form in the past couple of weeks has certainly been exceptional. He has started all 4 games since the September international break, scoring 2 goals and creating 2 more. At the moment, praise from Guardiola is ringing in his ears. When Cherki does return, it looks like that central role is locked down for now, either by Foden or Silva, which could mean the Frenchman battles that duo and Oscar Bob for a role on the right. There is no doubt the £34 million summer signing from Rayan has a big future at City, but it was always likely that he would take time to settle after his first move outside of France. His return to fitness might coincide with a spell on the bench, and his performances as a substitute mean there is merit in that role. Guardiola has a bigger squad than in recent years when everyone is fit, and he will expect players to make an impact when used off the bench. Cherki has already shown he can do that. He got 17 minutes as a substitute on his Premier League debut at Wolves and scored an excellent goal. In the Club World Cup, he scored in another 17-minute cameo against Al Ain, and then created a goal for Foden with a sublime assist in a 29-minute outing against Al Hilal. But when Cherki started games against Etihad AC and Tottenham, he had less of an influence. He played 59 minutes in the first of those games and then just 54 against Spurs, withdrawn when City were chasing the game after struggling to make an impact as a number 10. Guardiola will not rush to get Cherki into the starting 11 or find a permanent role for him. Speaking in August, the City boss highlighted his long-term potential. He's a top-class player in small spaces. The vision he has in the final third is unbelievable, he said. His right and his left foot. We'll see when he performs. For people up front, it's a question of numbers, and he played 20 minutes and scored a goal. There are a lot of games, and everyone will be so important. We're so happy to have him. He's just 21 years old. He's a top signing for the potential he has, and he is open-minded. I don't have doubts that he will be a top-class player. His quality is exceptional. Cherki has already shown he can quickly adapt to a game off the bench and make an impact. That, coupled with Foden's form, might mean he has to continue doing that when he is back in contention. Kalvin Phillips surprise Manchester City, return offers good moment for Pep Guardiola. Kalvin Phillips was back in the Manchester City team for the first time in 21 months as he played in the win against Huddersfield Town in the Carabao Cup. Kalvin Phillips travelled back from London on the morning of Manchester City's Carabao Cup win against Huddersfield Town to make his first appearance for the club in almost 2 years. The 29-year-old was in the capital on Tuesday as his partner Ashley gave birth to the couple's second child, a baby boy called Ari. But he returned to Manchester on Wednesday morning to be part of a City squad for the first time since December 2023. Phillips's epic journey was rewarded with 7 minutes off the bench as he continued his unlikely renaissance at the Etihad. His City career looked over in the summer when his number 4 shirt was handed to Tijani Reinders, but the £42 million midfielder has been included in the club's Premier League squad. After disappointing loan spells at West Ham and Ipswich, this was Phillips' first appearance for City since the Club World Cup semi-final 21 months ago. He was jeered by the Huddersfield fans for his Leeds United connections and was then ushered out of the back door of the Acu Stadium to return to London on Wednesday night to be with his family. "It's a good moment," said Guardiola. Yesterday, he was a father to Kalvin Phillips, and he came this morning from London and is now going back to London to his wife and the kids. He came back for a few minutes because we didn't know the position, but the game was controlled. They didn't make a lot of efforts in behind, and that was really good. Phillips was happy to just be back out on the pitch for City, and it was another encouraging night for Phil Foden, who scored one and created the other from an attacking midfield position in the 2-0 success against the League One outfit. "Phil, when playing that position, is a real threat," said Guardiola. "We would like to score the second goal and make the substitutions before for Nico O'Reilly and Phil, because they played a tough game against Arsenal, but they are young, they have good vitamins during the days, and now we come back to Manchester and prepare for Burnley. We have seen already Phil in the last few games, and when the team plays better, every player makes his potential. But it's not just today, the games against Arsenal, Napoli and United, he was really good. He can play in the pockets perfectly, but when he plays a little bit free and he gives you something unique." Manchester City expecting 4 players back from injury after international break. Manchester City have a number of first-team players currently out injured, but there is an expectation they will be back after the October internationals. Manchester City expect to have Abdulkadir Husanov, Rayan Aït-Nouri, Rayan Cherki and Omar Marmoush available for selection again after the October international break. The injured quartet are all eyeing up the October 18th fixture, with Everton at the Etihad as a potential return date as they seek to overcome injury issues picked up in recent weeks. France international Cherki has been sidelined since picking up a thigh injury at the end of August. The 21-year-old was initially expected to be out for 2 months, but he has made good progress and is now starting rehabilitation work to return to full fitness. There is hope in France that the former Lion midfielder could return before the international break. Although Cherki has a slight chance of proving his fitness for the trip to Brentford a week on Sunday, the view within City remains that the clash with the Toffees 2 weeks later is his more likely return date. The £34 million summer signing scored on his Premier League debut at Wolves and then started against Tottenham a week later, before picking up the injury that ruled him out of the trip to Brighton at the end of August. Left-back Aït-Nouri has been absent since the September international break with an ankle injury. The Algerian is not expected to return to training until the end of the October international break at the earliest. That could potentially put him in the frame to face Everton as he aims for a return to action next month. Marmoush is also still on the sidelines after picking up a knee injury while playing for Egypt in the previous international break. Pep Guardiola had hoped to have him available before the October internationals, and while the 26-year-old could be fit for the trip to Brentford on October 5th, he is considered more likely to be back in action after the break. Guardiola ruled Husanov out for the next 3 games ahead of the midweek trip to Huddersfield Town in the Carabao Cup, but the 21-year-old defender is unlikely to be available before the Etihad clash with Everton. Erling Haaland missed the win at Huddersfield after being taken off at Arsenal with a back complaint. Guardiola will run the rule over the Norwegian in training before deciding on his availability to face Burnley at the weekend. The Blues are also waiting on Mateo Kovacic to return to action. The Croatian midfielder has been out since the end of last season with an Achilles injury. Manchester City could permanently promote teenage sensation to first team after tactical change. Manchester City teenager Divine Mukasa enjoyed a good debut as Pep Guardiola's side beat Huddersfield Town 2-0 in the Carabao Cup. Having done their best impression of a Jose Mourinho team at the weekend, this trip across the Pennines could have felt like Pep Guardiola reasserting his principles of possession. So determined was he to show that Sunday was a one-off that Guardiola even went back to the tactic he is often credited with pioneering, the false 9. Divine Mukasa might not be Lionel Messi, or Phil Foden, or Bernardo Silva for that matter, but compared to Erling Haaland, he is more false 9 than number 9. There were times when this was like watching City pre-Haaland again, albeit the opposition were limited and the goals didn't flow. Mukasa, 18, did his chances of further first-team involvement no harm at all, however. It crept under the radar, but the debutant was one of 6 players in the starting 11 that City could lay claim to being academy graduates, having joined the club at 16 from West Ham United. He could have gone out on loan this summer, having been a productive attacker for the under-18s, but it was felt there was merit in keeping him around, and he has become a regular in first-team training this season. After 3 appearances on the bench last week, he got his chance to start in this Carabao Cup tie and showed enough to suggest he will get more chances this term. Mukasa started as the central striker in what was otherwise a very strong City side, but he interpreted the role very differently from Haaland. The teenager drifted to the left and deep, often going alongside or even behind Foden, while Savinho and Oscar Bob were left high and wide. He took the right direction to return the ball to Phil Foden for his goal and dropped deep early in the second half to get on the ball and spray an excellent pass out wide to Bob. The London-born youngster wasn't afraid to initiate either. One first-half shot from distance was deflected wide for a corner, and he had a second-half volley saved by Lee Nichols. Mukasa showed his technique to catch the volley flush, only to direct it straight at the goalkeeper. It had been a night of frustration for City, until Savinho's goal finally put the tie beyond doubt. City were in control throughout. Their average share of possession for the week is now a shade over 55%, which should end the idea that Guardiola woke up on Sunday morning and decided it was time to channel his inner Mourinho. The Blues were forced back by Arsenal at the weekend, but the boot was on the other foot in West Yorkshire. They